To me, it's like there's no point of making music, putting out messages, putting out stories if that real connection isn't there. And I think like you hear a lot of it, not to knock anybody else's, but it's like you hear a lot of it when it comes to music that maybe it sounds good, but the message isn't quite there. Or maybe there is a message, but it's one that's not getting really to the root, you know, to like a level of depth that is impactful. So to me, I'm kind of the school of songwriting where I want the stories to make people feel a little bit less alone in what it is they're going through. And that's always been there with the music, but I think with the show performance and the experience you give the fans, right? Like that's a whole different craft. It's a whole different type of storytelling and a whole different type of ability. So I'm just trying to tap into that. Like how can we take that same premise, bring it to the stage and make people feel really, really seen and really understood in a way that's still enjoyable, you know? It's like complicated, but I feel like that's what makes it an interesting challenge. Like if it wasn't a challenge, if it wasn't us trying to push the boundaries of what we've done before, it's also just not that exciting. The songs that stuck with me and the artists that stuck with me over the years are ones who made me feel like I wasn't alone in the things I'm struggling with. Whether it's a situation back home, whether it's a mental health situation, anxiety, whether it's, you know, a lack of confidence or a boost in confidence. Like if people are able to tap into that kind of relatability and connection, then those songs end up being like a soundtrack for your life. You feel me? And it's like, that's the whole point. I'm such a fan of like movies, and movie soundtrack is how I even started producing music. So why not tell the story and create these soundscapes that can be soundtracks for other people's lives? The biggest influence on taste for my music was my older brother. Him and I, we started playing the piano, like learning the piano when we were kids. And at a certain point, it got boring to like learn other people's songs. So what we started to do is just compose our own and compose these duets. So he was kind of like the catalyst and the introduction for me to even get into composition, right? Even get into like making my own things and figuring out what my voice is musically as a producer. He introduced me to some crack version of FL, and we like started cooking up beats and stuff. And even like the chord choices, the instrumentation choices, a lot of the taste of what felt good and sounded right came from him. So I gotta give credit to the big guy for shaping it. And I think he also introduced me to a lot of music that today I still consider to be music that like has shaped my soundscape and my taste and my choices. So just like early hip hop, I would be summertime, we would be hanging out with him and his friends, like all the people in my neighborhood, the kids I grew up with. In fact, the kids that gave me the nickname RMS, which is my initials, but they started calling me that, right? At that age, way before I started making anything. Those guys, hanging out with those guys who were like also, you know, a couple years older than me, listening to what they're listening to, I got put onto a lot of stuff early. So listening to a lot of like Lil Wayne, a lot of like, you know, OG Eminem stuff. Drake was just starting up at that time in like 2010. It introduced me to that world of hip hop that I think I then took that and ran with it and started discovering stuff on my own. I feel like I really first understood what anxiety was, like chronic, real serious anxiety, when I was a freshman in college. So right towards the end of like the first semester, I remember feeling just like a peak amount of overwhelm. School stress was there, right? You have these like expectations you kind of impose on yourself based on how you're raised to like do super well and excel and do all these things. It's a new environment. I was a little bit of ways away from home. So, and I also like was doing a job of taking care of myself, like lack of sleep, you know, lack of eating right or eating at the right times, like all these things out the window. So all that culminated towards the end of that first semester, and it really just like, it just destroyed my nervous system, I think. And I remember like I was in my dorm room in college. I don't even remember the trigger for it. It was that insignificant in hindsight, but in the moment, those things feel so real and so intense. I remember just like almost having a breakdown in my room. I'm like punching this pillow, like so stressed and confused. And part of the confusion is like, why do I feel this way? You know, it's like a illogical, like it doesn't correlate. The amount of stress and amount of anxiety doesn't correlate to like the scope of the moment. And it's super confusing. So you're like, why do I feel like, yo, the whole world is ending right now, you know? And I think that was my first experience with having something within the realms of like a panic attack. And then as that year went on, I think like one of my biggest sources of anxiety was just feeling a bit of friction with where I was at. Even circling back to music and circling back to the like career aspect of things, it's like one of the things, not the only thing, but like one of the things at that time too was like, what am I trying to do with my life, you know? We like get told so early on, like you go to, at any stage of like schooling, people are asking you like what you want to be when you grow up, right? At any, it's so bad, bro. It's so
like 21 years old, bro.
Yeah.
College.
And
people asking us that shit.
Straight up, it's insane. It's insane. And you think about like how early, what was the first time you ever heard that question, right? Like you think about how early we get.
Elementary school.
That's what I'm saying. I literally have a memory of that in like the 5th grade. We're sitting in the circle, like morning circle, and people are going around saying like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What an awful way to like condition kids to think that your job is your identity, right? Your job is your life. So throughout, we have that mentality ingrained into us. Now we're 18, we go to college and people expect us to know exactly what we're doing. You know, there's this weight on our shoulders to like have everything figured out. And I feel like that was part of the stress too, because I knew what I was doing at school was fine, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And that is a confusing place to be in. But part of my heart at that point realized that my heart's with the music. One of the biggest things I realized after I graduated school and working a couple years, I had this like stupid, arbitrary plan in my head where I'm like, okay, cool, boom. After 5 years of working, then I'll do music full time. It just,
You're gonna wait 5 years to follow your dream?
Yeah, it's just purely based out of fear, right? It's like, it's far enough in the future. I can think about it, like whatever, it's cool. So that was the plan. A couple of years into working, I realized the music is growing. My responsibilities at this day job that I'm not super attached to are also growing. Time is shrinking, you know, my health is deteriorating because I'm trying to do both these things at the same time. And also a realization of like, you know, you don't, in a perfect world, things work out and then you can make that switch. But I had this realization just listening to my intuition a bit, which was like, sometimes you have to make the leap in order for it to work. You know what I mean? Like the leap has to come first. Otherwise there's no catalyst for that magic to happen. And once I had that realization, it was hard to run from that, you know? It's hard to not see it that way. So then I was like, okay, cool. Gotta send it, gotta go all in and make the most of it. Have you seen the movie, A Most Violent Year? It's called A Most Violent Year.
Oh, not yet.
It's a movie that came out in like 2014. The Oscar Isaac movie. It's pretty dope. I remember when I saw it, there was there's one scene with a super sick quote where he said, if you're scared to jump, that's exactly when you jump. Otherwise, you'll stay in the same place your whole life.
Yeah.
And so it's 2014. I'm like 15 at that time. I saw it, it was so fire, I put it into my first mixtape in 2016. I sampled it and dropped it in.
When it feels scary to jump, that is exactly when you jump. Otherwise, you end up staying in the same place your whole life.
Then in 2022 or 23, when I'm getting ready to, you know, I'm making this decision on, okay, I've been at this job a couple of years, like what's the next move? Should I send it, should I not, on music? And out of nowhere, that same quote became a trending sound on TikTok. And then it came up on my feed and I'm like, I'm getting messages from the universe like, yo, now I understand the meaning of this message. I didn't even get it at the time, but I thought it just sounded hard. So I was like, yo, let me sample it.
Yo, we're gonna say a young RMS had stupid foresight.
Yeah, it's real, bro. It's crazy. So
definitely a sign, though, right?
Yeah, you gotta.
All that matters is that you saw it as a sign that supported you on your path, though, right?
Right.
That's all that matters, no?
100%. That's the biggest thing. It's like to recognize that, you know, when the universe is talking to you,
Yeah.
that requires some level of just like being open-minded, you know?
What scares the shit out of you on this path?
Yeah, bro. Excellent question.
As he takes a sip of his nervous iced tea.
Sips nervously. I think what scares me is to be in a position where I can't take care of the people I care about. You know, us as artists, us as creatives, us as people, taking a path that's a little bit unconventional, taking a leap of faith, taking risk. All these things, like in our own world, are fine. What scares me is there are people that will eventually be dependent on us, even if they're not dependent on us right now, you know? Whether that's my parents as they get older, whether that's, you know, the life that I'm building with my partner and stuff. It's those kind of things when you start thinking about like the periphery and like the circle of people around you, then it's like, okay, I always want to be in a position where I can take care of them. Simultaneously, part of the job that we have as risk takers and as artists is to be okay with things being a little rough with the, on an immediate sense, with the idea that, you know, we'll come up from that and things will be amazing in the future. The problem is the timeline's not in our hands, you know? I can't tell you, oh yeah, by like second quarter next year, I'm be in the green and like everything is chill. It doesn't necessarily run like that. There are like loose projections you can make or goals that you should have on the business sense and otherwise, but not everything is super in your hands. And that's why like a lot of people, as they get to different stages and phases of life, they give up or they put it on the back seat. And that scares me too, being in a place where I think that I have to do that. So right here,
Art and creativity.
yeah. It's like you're in this situation where like, I want to be able to take care of people. Simultaneously, I don't want to put my art on the back seat. I don't want to put my creative on the back seat. It's a tricky thing to wrangle with mentally. You know, it requires a decent amount of like being ultra present. And I think like that's what's helped me when I do feel those bouts of fear in my stomach and do feel those like little moments of like, future's coming up quick, you know? Like that kind of thing. I think what helps me kind of recenter is just being super, super present and being ultra grounded in the present and being like, hey, of course I have like bigger plans in life and we think a few years ahead in the future, but generally when it comes to career and comes to music and comes to things, one, focus on the things you can control. And then two, intentionally kind of limit the scope of how far in the future you look at, you know? There's a line from like one of my songs that I put out in college when I was like suffering from all this anxiety. The song was called Lean Back and is basically a line that goes, looking so far into the future, it's like I'm living in my afterlife. That's a feeling that you gotta fight because it's our like, it's our inclination to feel like that, you know?
You always worry about the future.
Yeah, so to be present, I limit my scope of timeline where I'm like, I'm only gonna look 1 year into the future, you know? That's my window. I'm not trying to plan beyond that because who knows where I'll be at in a year, you know? And I think that helps ease my anxiety a bit too, you know?
Why are you an artist?
Why am I an artist? I don't think it's a choice. I think things that we are given, you know, the DNA that we have, the blood we have, the wiring of our brain, those things aren't always in our control, you know what I mean? Like we're created a certain way, but also we're nurtured a certain way. And that's like an impossible thing to plan or predict or do on purpose. It's just kind of an exposure thing. And once you have that wiring, if you're a true creative, right? If you're a true artist and you really live and breathe and care about this to a million, then it's, yeah, then it's in your DNA. It's not a choice, you know? And I feel that way. And I think I was having a conversation with my friend about this because we were talking about how like blessed some people are in a way, right? They're blessed to be passionate about things that have a relatively safe career path, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in school, I was with a lot of homies who were genuinely passionate about just like coding and software and computer stuff. You have those people that are passionate about those kind of things and it's like, that's amazing, right? Like there's no knocking that, like that's amazing. But it's also a blessing because it's like what they're passionate about, there are paths in life that exist for that. More clear paths, more defined, like structured paths. Whereas in a lot of ways for us, that path doesn't exist. But again, you don't choose that path out of fear, right? You don't choose a safer path out of fear. You choose the path that is right for you. And that's why when I say it's not a choice, it's like, I didn't choose this life. This is the life that I'm meant for. Yeah. So I take it in stride and I take it as a blessing of its own and attack it full force, you know?